dollar is a dollar and a dime is a dime. We'd sing another chorus, but we ain't got the time. Back to MMA Lockup.
Welcome back to MMA Lockup. I'm Bernard Oliver. I'm joined by ringside Dr. Gary Furness. Gary, how you doing tonight?
Doing just fine.
Gary, now, we left off last week talking about UFC 160, and boy, what a card it was. The heavyweight division really got shaken up a lot. Man, there was just some great fights at the end of that card.
Yeah, there really are. I think we have both mentioned that the depth of the UFC heavyweight division I don't think has ever been this good before. It's impressive.
Yeah, I've been talking to a couple of people this week, and I just kind of feel like it is the best time the heavyweight division has seen in the UFC. I really don't think the talent level has been as high or the punch has been as devastating.
No, I would agree with that. I think you could easily pick 4 or 5 guys, insert them to be the champion, and no one would be embarrassed. Then you have a guy like Frank Mir, who's 2-time heavyweight champion. He's barely in the top 8.
Yeah, speaking of champion, wow, Junior Dos Santos really making a name for himself with that number 1 contender spot now, knocking out Mark Hunt. Was that not unbelievable? Yeah,
I mean, Mark he absorbed some punishment, but when he got hit there, it was all over. And I don't recall ever seeing Junior Dos Santos ever use any kind of technique like that before either.
Yeah, he actually came on the show last week after you did, and he was saying that, I've really been working really hard on my camp, and I've worked on my boxing and my striking a lot. I've worked on my jiu-jitsu. He didn't even need his jiu-jitsu. That roundhouse wheel kick was amazing. I did not see it. When he hit him, I thought he missed, and I was like, why did Mark fall? And then they went back to the replay, and you see he clipped his side of his head.
Yeah, that's an impressive technique, and, it's one of those kind of like the flying knee. It seems like a really high percentage. They look impressive, but they hit air, but not that one. That was home.
The thing that I find so fascinating about it is, I really analyze things when I'm looking at the replays and I'm looking at the fights. I really like to break things down and analyze them, and the technique in that kick was so sound. I mean, I don't think it hit as flush as he wanted it to, but his technique, he had his eyes on his target the entire time after he spun around for that kick. It was an absolutely amazing technique.
Yeah, very impressive, and I think, that was like 13 minutes plus into the fight, to pull something like that out of your hat, that you're not going to see that very often.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I believe it. You're right. It was about the last minute and a half of the fight, and he really went for that KO. Man, I think that's one of the things that I love about MMA. Man, they really go for the kill late in the fight. Yeah,
well, I think the UFC does a good job of encouraging it. Those guys don't tend to get cut, and those kind of guys tend to get the bonuses. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and Junior and Mark definitely went away with Fight of the Night honors. I thought Junior was going to get KO of the night. He ended up getting Fight of the Night. So Junior and Mark both got paid for that fight, and it was a pretty great fight. Moving forward, though, speaking of heavyweights again, Cain Velasquez and Antonio Silva. Cain really put on a show in the main event. I couldn't believe that Antonio kind of went down the way that he did. Well, I guess I could believe it. That's what we predicted to happen, but he kind of seemed to be contesting the knockout, the TKO at the end of the fight. Did you think it ended early?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing that was going to happen is Cain would have put a more serious hurt on him, so I sure don't have any disagreement with that stoppage.
Where do you kind of see Antonio Silva being at now in the heavyweight class? He's lost twice to the champion. It just kind of seems like a hump he can't get over.
So, thinking about intriguing matchups for him, 2 to come to mind would be Stefan Struve. I mean, how would it be to have him fight somebody who's truly looking eye to eye?
Yeah, 2 gargantuan guys like that fighting each other. I think you get to throw that up there with Brock Lesnar and Alistair Overeem and Struve and Travis Brown. It's just 2 behemoth-sized men fighting in the ring.
Yeah, so that I think would be a good matchup. And then, frankly, put the 2 losers, Bigfoot against Mark Hunt. May the best guy win.
If they have that fight, who do you have winning that
one? Based on last week, I'd have to go with Hunt.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say the same thing. I really feel like he is still very lethal at his age. I think those things counted him out against his age and his conditioning. He really went the whole fight with Junior Dos Santos, so you can't really say he's not conditioned. But I really feel like his age is one of those things that kind of affected him against Junior Dos Santos. I think his striking ability outweighs that if he fights Antonio Silva.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a big target, and Bigfoot was not moving too well. For Mark, it's true he didn't gas, but for what it's worth, I didn't think the pace of that fight was particularly quick.
No, it really wasn't. Junior, and there's a lot of things I know a lot of people are going to jump on me when I say this. There's as great as Junior is, there's still a couple of things he could work on boxing-wise. I come from a boxing background, so I like to pick things apart a little bit. Junior is an amazing fighter, and I'd never fight him. But there's a couple of things, a couple of bones I had to pick with him. He just backs up straight a little too much for me. But he's very good. Once he hits that cage, he's very good at getting out of the way. I don't think there's a lot of people that could hit that cage and still make. It's almost like he's doing a rope-a-dope on the MMA cage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, he pardon the bad pun, very cagey. So Kane showed him back in December. You could be just a quarter second slow one time, and that's pretty much the fight's going to be over.
Yeah, I really sincerely hope that's one of the things he works on before they get on to their third match. Dana White went on record as saying if there was ever a case for a third match, this is it between Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez. Do you agree?
Oh, I think it could be, but since you're asking my opinion, I'd like to see the next fight go to Verdum if he wins this fight with Big Nog.
Yeah, I believe he's sitting at number 3. If you guys can go check out our rankings on from Fight Metrics on the UFC.com, and actually UFC's overall rankings have Fabricio at number 3. So I find it hard to believe if he does win this match against Struve. I really feel like he is going to come out ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke on the opponent there, but if I think Fabricio's put in his time. I mean, his last bad outing was kind of weird against Overeem, and he certainly looked impressive since then. So I don't think there's any real rush to get Cain JDS number 3. They've got some time ahead of it if that works out, I would think.
Actually, Dr. Furness, I misspoke on the opponent. You were right. I'm sorry about that. You were completely right there.
Well, see, I mean, you're the boxer, so I have enough sense to defer to the young man with the punch.
No, that was my fault. But yeah, I mean, Fabricio, I really feel like he's really been sitting on the bench for a while. I mean, you haven't gotten to see him fight that much in the UFC since the merger between Strikeforce, and Chris has been calling for him to fight for a while. I mean, I can't think of a week where Chris isn't like, hey, why isn't Fabricio getting a fight? And I agree with him.
Yeah, well, I have to admit I have a soft spot in my heart. If you were to look up my Facebook picture, my profile picture has been for about 3 years now. My picture with Fabricio just about 15 minutes before he beat Fedor. Brazilian's camp is like none other, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, but when I saw him before that fight, I just came in because they wanted me to check a possible ear infection, and he was just so confident. Their guys were going nuts, and this had never happened to me before. He actually wanted his picture taken with me because he was sure I was going to be his lucky doctor against Fedor. As if he needed a lucky doctor.
Well, Dr. Furness, you do seem to bring that around. You're great at picking fights, and you just seem to have that aura about you. So he must have felt it.
Oh man, it was a fun night. It was historic. I mean, you have to realize at that time Fedor hadn't lost for about 10 years, so it was an upset.
You're listening to MMA Lockup. I'm Bernard Oliver, joined by Dr. Gary Furness, ringside Dr. Gary Furness. We're in here talking about the heavyweight class. Getting back to the heavyweight class, things really shaking up. Josh Barnett getting a job with the UFC, which is a great addition to the heavyweight class. 4 heavyweight titans going at it last week. A couple more going head-to-head next week. Fabricio Verdum getting in the mix. Dr. Gary Furness, where do you see the UFC heavyweight division going? Do you feel like the champion of that class is the most lethal man in the world?
Oh, I definitely think whoever holds the UFC heavyweight championship now is definitely the baddest man on the planet. I mean these guys to get the championship now, it's no joke. They got to put a nice little win streak together, and we both know at this level, at that size, there is not much margin for error. I don't think we'll see any heavyweight title reigns like Anderson or George St. Pierre. It's just they're too big, they're too strong, and anything can happen. I'm not sure about the rankings where Cormier fits into there, but he's another guy. I think if you plugged in and said he's our heavyweight champion, you'd say it has to be really legitimate. And rather than have Kane versus Junior Dos Santos #3, I kind of like to see Dos Santos against another AKA guy. Put him against Cormier and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that Cormier is sitting right there next to Fabricio Verdum, and it's well deserved. He had kind of a lackluster fight with Frank Mir. I wasn't super impressed with that fight, but there's been a lot of talk of him and John Jones going at it. So I'm not even sure Daniel's going to be in the heavyweight division very much longer.
Yeah, I think part of that's talk. I mean, Jones is going to be on the shelf for a number of months, and then he's got a couple fights stare him in the face when he gets back. The thing about DC is we know he's not going to find Kane if Kane's got the championship, and that does make things a little more difficult. But another real interesting fight for Cormier could be against the Overeem Brown winner.
Yeah, definitely. I think I really think Cormier is one of those guys that a lot of people, they say a lot of different things about him, but you really have to see the guy fight to see his talent, to see how good he is on his feet. Because when I first saw Daniel Cormier, I'll admit I kind of wasn't impressed, but when I saw him and Josh Barnett go at it, that has to be one of the greatest heavyweight showdowns I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, that was a war, and I think they both ended up with broken bones early on and kept around on trucking through the whole thing. So you don't see that very happen. I mean, they both had broken hands. I know Cormier took some heat for the fight against Mir, but I mean, he just neutralized a guy who's an Abu Dhabi past championship caliber grappler. I mean, that's really impressive. It was a different kind of fight, and for myself, looking at MMA, I don't have to see guys headhunting all the time, or I don't have to see a guy pulling out 14 different submission attempts in 2 minutes on the ground. I looked upon that as a heavyweight chess match that Cormier won going away.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And speaking of baddest man alive, Mike Tyson was in attendance at UFC 160. How great was that to see him being, bowed at and his hand shaking and praised by the MMA athletes? I thought that was really great. And that's really one of those things that shows that boxing doesn't hate MMA and MMA doesn't hate boxing.
Yeah, there really is no reason for it. Michael's been a good citizen in there. I think he's had a couple guest appearances on The Ultimate Fighter. I've never heard him say anything disrespectful about anybody. He was. I think he helped TJ get an extra $50,000 there for promoting him for KO of the night, but which was kind of interesting. I don't know if they're friends ahead of time, but he does seem to be quite interested in the sport, and it's good to see him. Good to see him out and about.
Yeah, definitely. Glover Teixeira was beside himself seeing Mike Tyson, his hero, out there in the crowd. I really thought that was a great moment, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Gary, I don't think we have an event this week. I know you said you wanted to sneak some more Bellator in here. I'm not sure if Bellator, I need to do my research there. I'm a horrible host.
No, I can't help you there either. It seems like Bellator runs events about once every 3 weeks, so you probably could guess yes and be correct. Speaking for myself, I have back-to-back amateur events coming up in Sacramento and Santa Clara the next couple weekends, so that's going to be keeping me busy. But anytime anybody can get out to a live MMA show of any kind, it's a good event.
Gary, you're going to have to keep us updated with those amateur events. You might have to grab some of the guys from those and get them on the show.
Well, we can definitely do that. We did have one of the biggest MMA exposures for this year, and I think we had talked about it. That was the double KO that took place just about 2 months ago.
Yes, I remember you speaking on that.
20 seconds in the fight, overhand rights, not with some suspect defense, and down they went. That was I'm not expecting to see that again.
Yeah, that's a very rare occasion. Double knockouts happening are rare anyway, and for them to be throwing the same punch like that had to be quite a sight to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And it put, for about 4 or 5 days, put Yuba City, California on the map, and that may not happen again for quite a while.
Well, Gary, I guess I don't have an MMA lockup guarantee to ask you this week. What are your weekend plans? What are you doing?
Let's see. Well, Saturday I'm off to Sacramento for the California Amateur MMA show, which is going to be fun. And Sunday, I think my 9-year-old and I got plans. We're going to be going to a trout farm.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Gary spending time with the children.
Oh, yeah. Life in the fast lane.
Well, Gary, as usual, man, it's been great talking to you. We'll have you on again next week. Man, I can't really think of anything else to ask you right now, man. Gary, it's just very fun for us to have these conversations with you every week.
And likewise, talking MMA, it's good chat.
Remember to check us out on Facebook at MMALockup. Remember to follow us on Twitter at MMALockup. You can follow Chris, follow me. We're always on there, guys. We're always chatting. And just remember, if you're the last one here, remember to turn out the lights and lock it up.
Life is a book of volumes 3, past, present, and yet to be. The past is written and laid away. Only the present chapter you're writing each day, and as for the future, hey, brother, this is the key. Choice, not chance, determines destiny. Thanks for listening. See you next time.